Engine 1 from Car 1. Car 1's on scene. If they've been command, give me a CAN report.
Here we are. So, Stephanie White, thank you so much for being on the CAN report.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And we are live tonight. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are streaming. We are having fun. And I'm excited for everyone to meet Stephanie, know who you are, history of you, your new venture into Firefighter Nation as the editor-in-chief, and some of the other stuff we're doing together and helping make things a little bit more fun and better in the fire service.
Looking forward to talking about it, but you're going to have to pick one to start with because I have ADHD and that was a whole lot of topics.
It was a lot of topics. Well, we'll try to get to all of them. But my first one is I always wanted to give a shout out to the people who've helped me along. And that is one of my sponsors is Engine House Designs. He is out of Memphis, Tennessee. He makes awesome plethora of clothing, hats. This one, flags, stickers, chore coats, you name it, he's got it. He's been doing great things. He also has his own podcast as well called Engine House Podcast, but his main source of business is doing the Engine House designs. Want to give him a shout out on here. So guys, check that out, Engine House Designs, Ignite the Pride. Also, the Kitchen Table Foundation. They are doing great things in the fire service world, helping people who are dealing with mental health or just need to talk. They're going around trying to help others who need the assistance. So it's for vets, it's for fire service, it's for first responders, it's for military. So anybody who needs help and you want to curious of what they're doing, reach out to the Kitchen Table Foundation. They'll help you where you need to go if you need to look to just talk to somebody. But most of our problems are always solved at the kitchen table, and that's why they named it. So check out their website, the Kitchen Table Foundation. They are doing great things. They're based out of Arkansas right now, and they're looking to venture out into other parts of the country. With that being said, now it's on to you. Please tell me and the rest of us who you are.
Well, I mean, that feels like an awfully existential question for 9 o'clock at night.
How about a brief synopsis of who you are?
There we go. Born and raised in the Metro Washington, D.C. area. I have 4 wonderful kids and 1 great husband who is in the fire service as well. Joined the fire service as 18 as a volunteer, moved on to become career right after high school, and just retired from that career a month ago.
That's awesome. Well, that's pretty short. That's pretty.
It's the down and dirty.
So, how long were you in the fire service for? Like, did you always want to start that, or what was the deal?
No, actually, I really hated firefighters. Funny story. After 9/11, I was only a high schooler when that happened. Just some conversations I had with guys I didn't know were firefighters. Looking back, I think they were T-shirt kind of guys. Just some of the comments they were making about the Pentagon and dead bodies and joking references to food, dark kitchen humor stuff, but they were doing that around my little 16-year-old self. I was like, man, firefighters are real D-bags. So never was a thought in my mind whatsoever. And did a couple programs in high school where I traveled internationally and thought, oh, medicine seems to be a needed thing in the world. And a buddy of mine said, oh, I'm an EMT. And I said, what the heck is that? So he dragged me into his volley house. And that first night, the career staff saw me and said, hey, what are you doing here? And what are you trying to accomplish in life? So they got me into their career medic school, I think like a month after I started volunteering. So went straight from EMTB to medic, and you had to be a firefighter to be a medic. And I thought, all right, I'll suck it up and do that stuff. Got hired, went through the academy, and just absolutely fell in love with suppression and was like, oh, this medic stuff is decent. Just the physicality of it and just all the different facets in which you have to push yourself, right? Mentally, physically, just everything. There is not one thing that goes into firefighting. It's just all the million things. That's why all us ADHDers love to do it, is because you get to fire off in 1,000 different directions and have some fun. So that was my true falling into the fire service. Never thought of it as something that would be a career. Was only going to do it for 5 years and go off and do international aid, and just was having too much fun. To stayed the whole shebang.
And you stayed for 20-something years.
Stayed for 20 years.
Wow, that's great. Before you retired, what was your position? What were you doing at the fire service there, at your fire department?
I was just back step, man, the whole time.
Awesome.
Retired out of Engine and Medic 9, so 1 week on the gut box and 1 week on the engine and just went back and forth. And to me, that was the best job in the world, especially when you're at a busy house, because just when you get sick of the lift assists and food on the stove, you can run over here and have a shooting. And then once you get tired of picking up people at the nursing home, you can run back here and have a fire. It's really the best of both worlds.
And you talk about like wellness a lot and mental health wellness and a lot of other topics. So why is I think we were on the same subject, is the workplace PTSD is like a big topic for you. Why is that?
I think I was incredibly lucky in that when you come into the fire service before you're even mentally solidified as an adult, it just becomes part of your mental culture. And I think you learn to bob and weave a little better than others. So seeing some of my friends who came in their mid-20s and kind of already had their personalities and their mental processes and all those things solidified, struggle with things. And even more so, listen, we never just burn out just from the calls, right? The calls are actually the easiest thing of what we do. Those can push us over the edge, the ones that are just from a humanity aspect, very heartbreaking. Those are the ones that give us the final shove. But that's never what does it, right? It's all the other things that kind of bring us up to that. And I think Dennis Leary did us all a huge favor when he did rescue me, because that was the first glimpse into PTSD in the fire service that was very unapologetic and very brutal. So people started having conversations, but it was about calls creating PTSD. So it was very, I hate to use the word cool, but cool with from a mental health perspective, to see that evolving over my career into, "Hey, no, no, no. It's not guys sitting on the edge of bed crying because of calls." That's always the joke that people say, "Oh, guys sitting on the edge of bed saying, oh, boo, I'm sad, I'm going to kill myself." That's what they use to make fun of people, but that's not what it is. All the shit we deal with in the fire service that takes us up to that point. And maybe it's a call that just puts you over the edge. That's, a mom just murdered her 3 kids, and you got to go in and wait amongst all that and see if any of them are still alive. And that's the thing that pushes you over. So bringing the conversation backwards a little bit into, hey, let's look behind the calls. Let's look at what somebody might be dealing with at home, or what's the state of your fire department like? What are people walking into in their firehouses? And bringing that all into one conversation has been something that I have been very lucky to get to do.
So you speak pretty, like, obviously now you're speaking openly about it, but then you obviously been writing as well. Have you always been into writing, or did all of this, like the things that you just talked about, did that inspire you to write?
Never been a writer. Didn't even have a journal as a kid. Like, there was no Dear Diary, Snow White edition hiding under my bed or anything with a little lock on it from 5th grade. Never thought of myself as a writer. Facebook warrior, absolutely. I will go on some rants, but I had never thought about writing. And I did a podcast episode on medical marijuana. And our podcast producer for fire engineering, because I was writing for fire engineering at the time, or I'm sorry, podcasting for fire engineering, said, "Hey, why don't you make this into an article?" And I did. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Wow. So, because for me, I was always writing. I loved to write when I was a kid. It was mainly about like shit that was going on in my life. I would just write poems. I'd write just shit that was happening. And I had journals after journals after journals of just stuff that was on my mind. It was my getaway. And for me, it like, after I left the bad environment that I was in, the previous department, I I was already writing when I was in that department as well because of all the issues, but I really started going further and actually be able to reach out to you and like, hey, I've got these things, I want to get it out. And it felt so good. It was therapeutic to get those emotions out and for other people to understand where I was coming from and other people to relate to it. And like for you having all of a sudden inspired from one topic, and it seems like you just shot right off and just started writing a lot. So was that how that just all of a sudden your creative juices were just out and podcasting opened them up and all these other experiences?
I mean, I think obviously all my replies probably on the union Facebook page is what taught me how to write. No, I always loved to read. So I think I probably had a combined style of my favorite authors that I possibly thought in. So when I did sit down with the topic at hand, the words did come easily. I think just from years of reading, I will freely admit I was not the cool kid in any way, shape, or form. Weirdly enough, I was the purple haired little goth kid who was not actually getting into trouble. I had like a book hidden behind everything. So that made it being a reader made it easier to be a writer. So you're right. Once I got a topic and realized that I could put pen to paper, I think it all just kind of verbally vomited it out onto paper.
Now, how did you get into the podcasting thing? Because I thought you were writing first and then started doing the podcasting. So you
Nope.
went into the podcasting first.
I did. So I started 5 after midnight, I want to say in 22, and started that podcast and ran that for about 2 years. And then when I started the current role that I'm in, I felt a little overexposed between writing all the time and podcasting all the time. So I set podcasting down for a minute. It actually is going to start back up this year, but no, it was the verbal vomiting started before the writing did.
And what was it that you were focusing on for the podcasting? What was your main purpose for that?
There are a million and one stories in the fire service that we never get to hear. And I think so many people, I think it can be something as easy as a divorce, which every other fireman goes through. But for some reason, so many of us, when we're sitting in a situation in life, because the only time you really hear about things in the firehouse is in a very jovial manner, and we're making fun of ourselves, self-deprecating humor. We don't talk about the scary life things. So when people end up in real life situations, a sick parent, a sick spouse, a divorce, child custody, whatever, they often feel like they're the first person going through that version of it, right? Because all the other dudes over here that went through it were laughing about it and seemed lighthearted about it. And I think just having normal people on to have conversations about everyday life in the fire service and the stumbling blocks we can come across was really what I wanted to and still will continue to do. It's just it's such a precious thing to be able to hear people's stories and to give them a voice to either share their experience so there's a roadmap when somebody stumbles onto the same path as them, or to make somebody else feel heard or seen. But there are a lot of amazing podcasters out there who definitely bring the leaders of the fire service on, and there's absolutely a space for that. I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to bring just your average Joes on and have a conversation of, hey, these things might seem tiny, but when you're in the midst of it and nobody's talked about it, it's not tiny.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important. It's kind of like the same thing, the same mindset that we have is that it doesn't have to be these world-renowned influential people in the fire service. The people that we don't know are the ones that really have the best experiences and the biggest messages to
Hmm.
give us, because I know it's hard. I know it's going to be very difficult for people to understand, but there's other people outside the fire service world that, that have something to give to us. And, if it's not fire service related, some people shut their minds off, but man, the real world experiences that you get from some people who just live just the typical 9 to 5 life, but man, they have some amazing stories. And they've lived some crazy lives, and they have an important message. And I love that that is your platform. It's just to get that out. And for us, anybody to learn from it. It doesn't have to be, hose advancement, extrication, leadership tactics and all the other stuff we have out there, the great stuff that's out there, but also just to be able to relate to our brothers and sisters of the whole entire world as humans. I think that's super important.
Well, the funny thing is I'm 50% better at being receptive to people who are not in the fire service, because I woke up suddenly one day and I was a civilian. I was like, this is really awkward and weird, and I can't segregate myself at parties anymore by being like, yeah, I'm a firefighter and I'm tired. Don't talk to me. I'm suddenly the civilian. So now I'm a little more open minded to, you know, people have voices and minds outside the fire service and stuff to bring.
Yeah. So what is that like? All you knew for 20 plus years is doing the job. And because you are a very young person. And now it's
I
got to
didn't,
be,
I just need everyone to know I did not pay you to say that. You said that of your own free will.
well, it's true, right? I mean, you are. And I think it's great that you've left to go do something. It's still important and still involved and still have a purpose with that. And what is it like though, to leave something that you've done for 20 something years and then and transition into the civilian life? the reason why I ask is because we all identify as firefighters. That's like, I'm Mike Goldstein. I am a firefighter, right? I don't say I'm Mike Goldstein and I am a stay-at-home dad. I'm not. I'm a firefighter. But those are the things that we identify as. And so when you don't identify as that anymore, how do you adjust?
So I was always the snob who I was like, I'm not the ate up dude. I don't wear the shirts off duty, the hoodies off duty. You're never going to know I'm a fireman. Was always what was built up in my head. And I did not realize how much I identified with my job until I retired.
Mm,
I think even if you're the cool kid who doesn't have I had the union plates to avoid the cops, and that was about it. Um, yeah, you don't realize how much of your personality is involved with the job, whether it be, since the tiniest thing, but something that's hit me over the past 2 weeks. I live in the city of Richmond, big homeless population, like every city. And the weirdest thing has been I go for a walk or a run every day, seeing our homeless population and suddenly feeling a little bit useless. Oh, how many times a day do we complain about getting called to the same homeless guy over and over by Johnny Dogood who sees him and drives off, right?
hmm
But even on the days when we don't feel like we've done something, you don't realize that you have actually done something useful for humanity. You see the homeless guy you see 5 million times a day, you check on him, you throw him a bottle of water or a blanket, whatever. You have been in a level of connection with humanity that very, very, very few professions are. So the weirdest thing for me has been the disconnection from humanity. Suddenly feeling like, what is it that I'm doing that's useful to society when you go from, it's in the name, right? Public servant. And
right.
I don't think you think about, not to inflate our egos anymore, right? I don't think you think about how much servitude you actually do without thinking about it on a daily basis. Even on the slowest day when you're not doing anything, you are still in contact with the most vulnerable of our population, and you're still being helpful. And it's been really weird to not be helpful. I never would have thought that that would be a thing that I would miss in my life, but it's just being useful. That was the biggest adjustment, I think. There are a lot of big adjustments, but that was the weirdest adjustment that I've never heard anyone talk about, so I didn't know to be prepped for.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't again, it was a really good point, and that's why I asked, because talking to other people who've been retired out, and that's actually a big thing that they do say, is that I don't feel useful anymore. Like, what's my purpose? Like, that was my purpose. I knew when I'm at work and or off duty, I'm an off duty firefighter. I can help. And then when you say, like, you can still say I'm a retired firefighter, I can still help, right? But it sounds different, but you still have the ability to help, right? You're not picking up. You still pick up the phone and you still have dispatch's number and go, hey, it's Stephanie White. I'm here on scene of an accident, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, cool. I know who you are. This is legit. But you're not gonna go back to the firehouse and talk about that story.
It's more of, all right, if you want to be a useful member of society, you have to go actively pursue it now. You have to decide if you're going to volunteer at a homeless shelter, stuff like that. Whereas we just naturally got our fill of being helpful. Because you're right, when you do hear retired guys say, "Oh, I miss being useful," and I always thought of that as the grander scale of things, right? The extrications, the house fire, stuff like that. I never thought of it as the, hey, handing the
Oh,
homeless guy a bottle of water kind of thing.
you nailed that answer, because people were giving me some thumbs up on that one. Wayne Jones said to timestamp that one because he said that was spot on. So apparently people do resonate with that. So
Wayne
those are
Jones
things.
just has to agree with everything I say because he's got gingers in his family. So
It's true.
thank you, Wayne.
And a soon to be grandpa of probably another ginger.
We can only
Um,
hope.
Now you left the fire service and then you transitioned into Firefighter Nation. What is your role at Firefighter Nation?
So that was actually part of the reason I retired from the fire service in what year are we in, right?
We're in
2025,
2025.
2 more days. So in FDIC April of 2024, David Rhodes approached me. He had actually approached me in October, but they made it official in April and said, "Hey, will you come take over Firefighter Nation and transition that from what it was at the moment to what we've created it to be right now?" And I said, "I'm not ready to leave the fire department yet. Will you do my homework for at least another year?" So that was also a big part of the leaving at year 20 was because of a promise I had made there. So what it is I do is I'm the editor in chief of Firefighter Nation. I'm not going to guess how old you are, Michael, but around my age-ish, maybe 3 or 4 years younger.
Yeah, I turned 47.
There you go. Okay. So Firefighter Nation, from what I remember of it, and actually I remember the day Pete, who is our web editor for Fire Engineering, said, "Hey, David Rhodes wants to talk to you about something." And I just handed in an article and I said, I instantly got that, "What did I do wrong?" anxiety. And said, "What's going on?" He said, "Nothing. It's about Firefighter Nation." And my first thought was, my God, I'm getting demoted. I'm not allowed to write for fire engineering anymore. What did I do wrong? Because Firefighter Nation was, do you remember the watch desk?
Yes.
It was kind of like the watch desk married with MySpace. And at one point, it was the website for Fire Rescue Magazine. But then it kind of went MySpacious, and it just was this thing that existed that they threw articles up on every now and then, but it just didn't have a clear image. So David Rhodes brought me on and tasked me with, "Hey, make this something in the wellness space and in the culture space." So that is what I was crazy fortunate to get to do, because we really took it from being not anything concrete, and I got to make it into this space that is really focused on culture. Fire engineering is your tactics and it's your training, and Firefighter Nation is your culture. Because great, we just ran a fire. That's awesome. Now we got to go back to the firehouse and deal with the difficult captain who's been screaming at the probie and throwing shit at him all day long, right? It's the calls are only half of the battle and half of the day, and culture is something that is so insanely important. And every faction of the fire service has culture. You have culture when it comes to cancer. You have culture when it comes to mental health. You have culture when it comes to leadership. It is all little wedge of the pie that is our all over culture.
Wow. Boom. There you go. That is. But what is it that you do? What
I
is
don't
it that
know.
you do, Stephanie? Like, so,
I wake up in the morning.
well, we were talking about this earlier. And I'm not, obviously, I'm not, everybody who's watching or listening, that was fantastic, Stephanie. You nailed it. Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. But what is it that you do as editor in chief? How easy is that job? Because we were talking about before, like people think that you just get the articles emailed to you and you just like, yep, no. You have your red, you have the red marker and you're editing their typos and shit. Like, what is it that you're doing?
Let's get this out of the way. I don't edit anything. I know that the title is very confusing. Editor in chief. Editor in chiefs, we don't actually. So David Rhodes and I don't sit there with like a cup of hot chocolate talking over,
Man, it's
a
disappointing
box of
because,
pizza,
man, I
marking
was
out.
just,
It's not what happens. No, we have copy editors who do that. So our job is to set the tone. So we get to sit in on all the corporate meetings and handle FDIC from that aspect, and then we get to handle our particular brands as editor in chiefs. We have 4 publications that fall under the FDIC umbrella. You've got Fire Apparatus, Firefighter Nation, Fire Engineering, and GEMS. So each editor in chief has their own different part of FDIC. So I get to plan out that part. We just opened it up last year. It's the wellness stage. And then all the agendas for the year for Firefighter Nation. I actually, the web editors for the other publications pick all the articles. I pick all the articles and go through all these submissions for Firefighter Nation. That's why I'm a little slow to get back to you, is because normally it's a team of people doing it. Because Firefighter Nation is in such a baby space, I like to be the one to read everything, because then if an article sucks, instead of just, fire engineering is such a big thing that maybe if an article isn't great, you get emailed back saying, "Hey, try again," versus I still have a little bit more time to say, hey, ooh, that person's got a good voice. They need a little more guidance here or there. So that's what I do with my day is I set each month's article agenda, and then I'm going through the submissions and saying, all right, this is already ready to be shot off to a copy editor, or nope, this person might not be the best for writing, or hey, this person's got a great message, they just can't write. How can we help them learn how to write? That's what I do.
That's what you do. I love it. And what is it that I know you just kind of said it, but like if someone has something good, like what is it that's really going to catch your ears? What are they like really that's intriguing them? Do you look for like a real hot topic item, or is there just, because we talk about wellness, we talk about culture, and that seems to be a lot of the topics that come out. What is it that maybe if someone has, how do they grab your attention? I guess the best way I can ask that is what is it that you guys are really looking for or going to grab your ears and eyes?
So it can be the same old topic that we've hit time and time again. Listen, we've yelled "Don't be a dick" a million times, but people are still a dick, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an open and honest point of view, I think, is the biggest thing that catches my attention. It's somebody saying, "Hey, here's a problem, guys. We got to fix it," and then bringing a solution, because I think the biggest stumbling block I've had to learn is I really like the calling out culture, the, hey, here's a problem. But then I can only publish so many of those before I say, hey, where's the solution in all of here? Like, I can't just be publishing, hey, we got a problem. Like, eventually somebody's got to come with the solution. So if you call out a problem, bring me a solution too. And really just honest stories, nothing grandiose, nothing crazy. You don't need to sound like you're a Rhodes Scholar. Just how would you relay this point and this story at the kitchen table? Cool. Write that down. Doesn't have to be fancy. We can make it fancy. We can add the semicolons for you.
I like that. And so when people are writing, we now have a great, wonderful tool that everybody loves to use.
Don't do it.
I've
Do
already
not
started it. I
do
just
it.
started it. I just started leading into it. You guys are very mindful of the very popular tool that's now in the 21st century. How do you deal with that? And I'm referring to the AI.
So do you remember she became really popular like 3 years ago? That little girl, not little girl, God, she was probably in her 20s or 30s, but she had the emu and she was like, Ezekiel, don't do it. And he was always trying to break her phone. Don't do it. Just when it comes to AI, don't do it. In fact, don't even use Grammarly, because Grammarly will structure things in a way that will set off our AI checkers. And then we got to send it back to you and say, hey, this was flagged for severe AI. Just send us the draft. And I say don't do it because you cripple yourself. Writing is a skill that anyone can learn. Like, listen, there's got to be some skill in the fire service that you looked at and you thought, that's going to take me a second to master, right? If it weren't a series of skills that weren't difficult to master, we would all be pretty bored right away. It's a skill. Learn to do it. If you use AI, first off, AI changes every couple months, but you can still instantly, for example, AI right now is all about 3 points. So it'll have 3 main subject points and then 3 solutions. 2 months ago, it was 4 points. So there's always a revolving way it does things that we can spot, but your reader can spot it. And your reader's going to go, oh, this isn't authentic. I see that double dash right there. That was the worst thing in the world for me. I'm a huge fan of the dash. So when AI started using the double dash, I was very offended. But there are trademark ways your reader can know. And your reader is going to see that and go, oh man, this person just wanted to be published, or this person just wanted to be somebody. They don't actually mean this story. Don't do that to your reader. I mean, do it to me all day long. I'll just hunt it back to you. But don't, if it slips through and a reader catches it, don't do that to them, because the whole point of writing, podcasting, all this stuff is to leave somebody's day a little bit better, right? Leave a light bulb or a candle on the path of fire service life for somebody. And if you use
I love
AI,
it.
you're not necessarily going to hit that target. Don't
Man, that's
do it.
Man, that is spot on. Because, like when you said like that always changes, I've noticed that before it always added emojis.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. So if you plugged it in and it spits it back out for you, you're going to see a lot of those emojis that go with your sentence. If you talk about fire, all of a sudden there's a flame emoji. You know, if you're, talking about a tool, there's a tool. It literally it generates it for you. So then when people just copy and paste it, like, oh man, that was completely auto-generated. They didn't, because normally you wouldn't be putting all those emojis in yourself for like a whole page.
You can train it, and people can train it incredibly well, but it's always still going to lack. The one thing AI is not allowed to do is it's not allowed to first person lie. So when I read something that somebody has trained well, and it does have the right fire service references and all those things, it will still be missing a personal tone.
Yes.
And then people just get bored, because what do we love to do around the kitchen table? We tell stories, right? We talk shit and we tell stories.
Yeah.
So people, even if you have it well trained, we can still tell, because it's like, all right, no way a fireman wrote this and didn't tell a single goddamn story.
I love it. So, by the way, everyone who's watching live, if you have a question, shoot me. There's chats open. I apologize to anybody who is watching on YouTube. I'm still learning how to do this. I forgot to hit the go live button. So we started in the middle for YouTube. Anybody who's watching there, if you got anything you want to ask, please do so. I do have that open. And on Facebook, we do have that open. People have been making comments and enjoying what we got to say. So with that, Firefighter Nation, you're under the Clarion Media Group, and you do a lot with FDIC. So how do you guys get all involved? You have all these different, you have GEMS and you have fire engineering, FDIC, all under one roof. What does it do?
It tires you up. So all of those brands that you just mentioned are owned by Clarion, and so is FDIC. So FDIC is just really this gathering of all of the talent from those brands, and some talent outside of it as well. But it really is bringing together the different themes of those brands and just trying to bring as much education as possible, be it classroom, be it the wellness stage, which is set up. I wanted that to be a little bit more of a live podcast feel, so people would be able to interact more and ask questions, to the GEMS area, which is hands-on learning. It's just watching every brand kind of come to life in all the things that they have published throughout the year. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Firefighter Nation, the wellness part of it is the wellness stage. Awesome. And where can people find that?
That is in the stadium. So apologies, you got to walk down the hallway. I always knew we as firemen could be a little lazy sometime, but I was impressed by how many people made it to Lucas Oil and said, God, that was a long walk. And I was like, I have seen you PT harder than that. I don't want to hear it. It's Lucas Oil Stadium, truly right when you walk in. We are right there to the right-hand side before you kind of get into the depths of the stadium. So go down Firefighter Row, which actually will not exist this year because they're doing renovations. But what used to be Firefighter Row, end of that, down the escalators.
So that has now, Firefighters Row is changing locations?
It will be for this year. The actual convention center itself is doing some renovations, so I had to move Firefighter Row a little bit.
So how do you pick for wellness for the FDIC event? What are you looking for? What are the topics, or who are you looking to really give something back to everybody else?
Wellness is different than the rest of the way we do FDIC. So the traditional FDIC submissions, and I'll pick traditional health and wellness classes for that. But the way the wellness stage is set up is I wanted it to be more of a conversation. So the way it is done right now is people who have had a voice in Firefighter Nation throughout the year and have resonated well with the audience, and people have asked questions, and I know that they're going to do well with conversations, I'll ask them to come on out, because I think you can only sit in a classroom so much during one day. I do think there needs to be, you kind of leave the classrooms in a little bit of awe of what you just heard, and maybe of how much you have left to learn, how much you don't know. And by the end of the day, if you're sitting in classrooms all day, you can leave just a little overwhelmed and fatigued. And I wanted it to be a place where you could fire service connect a little bit and have conversations with others and kind of bring a little bit of regeneration back in. So you've got the energy to hit another class again, and just not be that classroom zombie by the end of the day that I think we all have been
Yeah.
before.
Well, I mean, the long walk to the stadium really helps
Hey.
anyways. So I have a question from Wayne Jones. I think he already knows the answer, but I like that he asked it. His question is, as a new writer or someone that is interested in telling my story, how many words do I need to have in the story and where do I send it?
Now,
He's asking the
that was
questions I want to ask you. So
that
these are
that was
good.
a complete softball from Wayne. So thank you, Wayne. Wayne has been published by us before. So we have, I'm going to get all corporate technical on you. We can actually see with these heat maps how much people read. And I think around 750 words is really where our scrolling generation, even 47 and 40-year-olds, we all do it now. We hit a certain point in an article or video, we're like, I've heard enough. We scroll on. 750 words is good. If you're a fantastic writer or it's something really new, really technical, 1,000. Anything more than that, we can make it into a series. The other fun thing about Firefighter Nation is I've kept the articles shorter for that reason. I want people to read the entirety. And I realize that on the internet, I don't even read an entire article a lot of times. Not fire service related stuff, but if I'm reading something on a news app or something like that, once I feel like I've gotten to a certain point in the message, I scroll off, right? I go to the next thing. So keep it to 750 at a minimum, but that's where I write mine too for my monthly because we all have 88.
Yeah. And where would we send it?
So if you look on, and I will just give you a link to put with this podcast, or if you go to my 5 After Midnight podcast Instagram that I don't post on anymore, need to start that back up. There's a link in there as well. And that is a Monday board submission that you can submit to. Don't email it to me. It will get kicked back to you and you will be told to put it back on that Monday board submission because that's how we schedule everything. We edit everything. It's the whole shebang. And then if you go to Firefighter Nation, there's also going to be a link as well on how to submit.
Yeah, actually, it's very great. So if anybody is looking to submit an article, like Stephanie said, you go on their website for Firefighter Nation or Fire Engineering. They'll direct you to what article you're looking to place it, really what category too. Because like I know it's like it's not just fire engineering. There's a bunch of different sections and like subcategories. Pick and choose what you think is going to best be suited for what you're writing and what the audience you want to reach. They're going to tell you exactly what you need to do and how to do it. It's really, it's kind of a test, like how well do you follow instructions? Because if you don't follow the instructions very well, it's going to get kicked back.
Yeah, I pay attention to that.
You do.
If you've had a complete failure to follow the instructions, no, I'm kidding. It's a great way to be able to get new people who might not have known where to project their voice to get them in the system of might take you a little while to get published because there's a wait list in front of you, but during that wait you can be practicing and writing for your next article.
How many articles get sent for Firefighter Nation alone?
It all depends. So normally when I sit down to do my submission boards, I will be reading about 100 articles at a time, broken up across the day. So fire engineering's, no, they get a lot because they have both the website and the magazine where we just keep it to the website.
That's a lot of, no wonder you're always scrolling because I mean, you guys are reading all damn day. I don't know if I'd have the patience for it.
I have to have an assigned reading day where I actually get sleep the night before, take my Adderall correctly at the time I'm supposed to in the morning, have that hot cup of coffee and the reading glasses. And I know this is what I'm going to be doing for the entire day is just reading.
Awesome. Backtrack on the Wellness Center for FDIC. You've selected some people to be there and to do some of the things you're talking about. Who
You'll
do you
be there.
have? I will.
You will.
I know I've already posted it, but but you know what? I'm sure people are asking the question, but whether you love me or hate me, why?
I think so. I'm not going to lie. When you first started on the scene and you and I first had a conversation, I think very early on when you started your podcast, and I thought this guy's been through a lot of the same life things that I have with his career. And I think when you go through, I hate to use buzzwords, organizational betrayal, or just difficult culture stuff, I think you can either, there are three things you can do. You can either fall off the ledge and bash your department all day long and just be that bitter Betty that nobody wants to be around. You can stay silent about it and let it eat you alive, and it also helps no one. Or you can be very elegant about how you use it to help others. And that's very not a bitter way, but a, hey, be aware that this exists out here and how do we fix it and how do we clean it up? And I waited for a while to see which of those three you were going to fall into, and you went the correct direction. And just it's been an absolute joy watching you have a voice that is really devoted to change. I think it's so easy to be bitter. I think it's so easy to bitch. It's a trap we all fall into at least one point during our podcasting and writing careers, and you have really managed to avoid that. So wanted to bring you out to FDIC. You're going to be our Johnny on the spot, running around doing some interviews for us. But I wanted to have a conversation on the stage with you just about that, because I think unfortunately everywhere I turn, I'm hearing these stories from people
Yeah.
from departments, and it's just department after department after department. And we are in this. So we went through, what's the words I'm looking for? We went through this flight of over, it was a safety culture plight. Remember how many years ago? And I guess the fire service just truly goes in full bodied cycles because so many departments fell into that trap. And I'm so surprised by how many departments and how many people you would never expect it from are saying, hey, no, this is going on. Heard of a dude today that got the maximum amount of LEWOP because he told the old, cops are just firemen who didn't score high enough on the test and it offended somebody and he got 70 the LEWOP. What are we doing? What are we doing? What kind of an environment are we creating? And I'm hearing more and more and more of those stories. Yet I'm seeing more and more and more people get promoted that I know have done absolutely horrifying things. So we're in a place in the fire service. I don't know what started it. Let's get to the root of it. Is one of the reasons I've really appreciated you is you have the voice saying, time out. This isn't just me. This isn't just my department. Why am I starting to see it all these places? Because it grows. It does become an epidemic and we're in the middle of it.
Man, I love that you say it because I couldn't agree more. I think we all have deep thoughts. I think everybody, honestly, I feel like
Easy.
We do. I know you do because I see you. I see you a lot. So the deep thoughts, and like the things that I come up with is let them see. That's like been my epiphany as of late because we're so afraid. And that's why I came out with this platform. I didn't do it for fame. I didn't do it for anything like that. I just know from being in a situation where I couldn't speak, where whether I made a post or I complained to a coworker, it was always met with disdain, and you were brought into the office and you couldn't talk about it. It was bad. And even now I see people who are afraid to speak up. And lately I just that is my thing. Let them see, let the bad people see, whether it's a bad chief, bad captain, a bad senior man, or even just a crappy probie. Let them see, let them know that you're unhappy. I mean, you can be respectful about it. You don't have to swear at them and spit at them, but let them know, like, hey, I'm not going to hide my feelings anymore for being mistreated. And that's, for me, came from that being repressed. And I couldn't speak up and say, I'm not happy. Because if you said you're unhappy, you don't get promoted. You don't get those details. You don't get the overtime. There's things that you just get missed or skipped over because you spoke up. And now I'm at that point where, you know what? Let them see. I'm happy for them to see.
I think one of the biggest things is, listen, you look everywhere, politics, everything has become, we're spitting at people. And I think people have become so used to that when you on a podcast, writing, whatever, as a firefighter say, nah, here's a clear and concise notice for you on what you're doing wrong and why you're doing it wrong, but it's done calmly. I don't think anybody is used to that, because when you look on our union Facebook pages, in our volunteer organizations as well, it's just we all get so spun up and we go at people. It's just who we are and how we are as type A people. And I think having the ability to just calmly say, that's I'm not going to accept that. By the way, here you want to throw SOPs at me. Here's all the ones you didn't follow with this. Take it back to the drawing board. And I think that absolutely terrifies people because they know how to armor themselves when somebody comes at them on the offense. When somebody comes at them with the facts, I think that's, even when we come at people with the facts these days, we come at them with the facts and we're still spitting them like a nail gun. And so they really go mute because all they hear and see is the hate that you're throwing it with. Go at people calmly. Write the facts down. You will become the most terrifying person in the fire service if you do that, because it's an art that few practice. And if you look around at the people that you see standing the tallest, I guarantee it's an art that they practice. Even if they give it in a slightly fiery way, they still have it so bolstered with the facts and the truth that nobody can come at them.
Yeah, you nailed it right there. And you're absolutely right. It is a fine art, but like reading, it's going to sound kind of lame, but like you kind of hit on it, is knowing your SOPs, knowing them like really, really well. So when you have a certain person who's going to throw them back at you, especially, your senior officer or whomever else, and say, you can't do that. And they're just literally spouting off because they think they know it. And you turn around and go, I actually know it says right here that I can, or you're wrong, or, like the little loopholes and things. I got a quick little example. I was wearing boots in my previous department. I wore the Rocky boots kill my feet. And I wore a different style. And they're black. They look just like the paratrooper kind. And I had been wearing them for months. Well, that fire chief saw that I was wearing, after like 3 months, saw I was wearing different boots. What are you wearing? What's on your feet? I go, boots. And he says, well, what kind of boots? I said,
this is where you and I differ, because I would have said boots with the fur.
Right. So, but this is a person that really is that bully. And if you bring out facts to them, it's going to really make them unhappy. So long story short, he says, you can't wear those boots. What does the SOP say? And I said, the SOP says black boots are shoes. And he says, no, it doesn't. And that's when I kept, no, it does. And he says, and we were going back and forth. I said, and he said, nobody else was wearing them. Go. And I just started listing off all these people who were wearing different shoes. Just ended the conversation, enough. And he walked away. And I turned to one of our new officers and I go, was I wrong? And he says, nope, you weren't. So, but it pissed him off that I had the facts. I already knew that SOP in my head. So when he was trying to go off about you can't wear it, and he says, what does the SOP said? I calmly, respectfully said, black boots are shoes, sir. And that's exactly how it went. But did not like it because we had the facts. So if you throw those facts back at them and you're smart about it and respectful, it's going to piss them off. But you're not doing it to piss them off either. You're doing it because you do need to stand up for yourself. And I want everybody, that's what I want people to realize. You need to stand up for yourself, but if you know the legalities of things and you can be calm, cool, and collective, it does help. Or sometimes it doesn't.
You're starting probably about 10 or 15 years ago. I remember I was on light duty with my second pregnancy. And our assistant chief, who actually is a close friend and mentor of mine, came walking up to the desk I was assigned to inside, and he said, Steph, did you write something about such and such on social media yesterday? And I said, yep. And I said, Chief, can you show me what SOP it breaks? And he sighed and he said, none. I'll go tell him to go deal with it. He walked off. It's just because I've always been a little bit of a writer, I guess, at least when it comes to social media. I learned our social media policy the second it came out because I knew people always had a comment to say about the things that I had to say. And that was an area at least once a month somebody was trying to have me up for my social media. So that was something
Sounds familiar.
I was very careful with learning, not only my SOPs, but just all the different laws around it as well. Anytime there was a case involving the fire department and Facebook, I was watching it because listen, if you're going to be a little bit of a louder person, it helps to know where they're going to try to hem you up.
I love it. Oh man, absolutely. So who else do you have that we should know about for the wellness stage and wellness center?
So we're going to have some different names this year because it is the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So we are going to have some firemen who actually survived the collapse. They're going to be there talking about, I think, just different aspects of survivorhood that we haven't heard before. And just, I think it's such an applicable message because I think it's something we all have been through in tiny bites, whether it's losing your shift to it being completely broken up. Obviously, that's nowhere near the extreme of having your entire shift killed, but the skills and the coping mechanisms and the life skills that they had to learn as they went through that. I didn't want it just to be a 9/11 story. I wanted it to be something where people could actually take parts of their story and relate it to their own fire service career and walk away with something. So there are going to be a couple of those gentlemen out there. Beth Flaherty, she is a clinician on our editorial advisory board. She is going to be there. Mike Wells, we are going to have some widows out there talking about the recent HEROES Act and what that means for both volunteer and career, and just some different authors from Firefighter Nation. I will get you the full list of names so that you can broadcast and blast it out, but I try to change it up a little bit every year. Based off of the conversations that I hear around me and the things that I see people submitting about or writing about the most, because that really tells me that that thing is I don't think everybody read the same Facebook post and all said, hey, I'm going to go write about that. I think that means that people are going through it in many different departments. So that's the goal of the wellness stage. We're not the big badassery of FDIC. I never want it to be that. I will always fight for it to stay a small, intimate size because it's the environment I want for people, and that's the goal of it every year. We're not celebrityhood. We're the quiet conversations that I hope people carry in their souls when they walk out of FDIC. They carry all the other information in their head. I want them to carry these messages in their souls.
I love that you're incorporating everything, though. The fact that you're giving the voices to the brothers who went through 9/11 and the survivors to actually talk and for us to really get something out of it, not just the event, but the personal reflection on it. And that's going to be something to see and something to hear for sure. And I'm really looking forward to that. You guys do a great job with what you set up at FDIC. It's a lot of thought. And you guys definitely put a lot of energy and time, and you want people to get the most out of that. And I think that is fantastic. And I'm excited to be able to be up there and talk with you. And for others, like what we just talked about, is getting that voice out and just for people to understand that you're not alone and they can hear it and see it in person and talk with us. I think also putting a face to people is always so helpful. And I also have, let's see, the people who are commenting the most is your boy, Wayne Jones. And, but I just want to give a shout out to this guy, Ray Mart de Guzman. He says, now I'm really amazed that even we are on the other side of the world, the fire service has the same kind of problems. And I wanted to give him kudos to that because he's absolutely right. And that's why we do these things. That's why Firefighter Nation exists. That's why, honestly, I exist, is because I want people to know that these things do happen. And you know what? It's okay to talk about them. It's okay to understand that we are dealing with the same problems, whether you're having, I'm not sure where he's from, but on the other side of the world. And let's see, Wayne Jones, for those of us that are not able to make it to FDIC, will there be links for us to be able to listen to the conversations that go on at the wellness stage?
I don't think we're going to be live streaming it this year, but we will absolutely be recording everything for content.
And I'll be there doing a lot of live feeds.
You will
And
be.
I'm going to be there, like Steph said, I'm going to be boots on the ground. I'm excited it's going to be this short Jewish tattooed man running around asking people a lot of questions. I'm going to do a lot of live feeds around there. So if you don't know who I am, this is me. And, just be on the lookout for, the mustache and the tattoos.
Look for the mustache. Yeah,
Now,
there won't be many people with mustaches and tattoos at FDIC.
No, there won't be any. They're just going to be very, very rare to see anybody with
I
a
actually
mustache
bring
and
a
tattoos.
mustache with me to FDIC, and I've got a lot of tattoos.
Well, I saw that you did you had the mustache with Firefighter Fenton. I almost posted that as your as the real clip because that was a good one. Also, one with the crazy hair that you had. I was going to post that one as well, but I wanted to do you right. Now, some other exciting news though is you have different platforms on Firefighter Nation, correct? You have different podcasts on there.
We do. We are actually redoing a little bit how we do our podcasts, but we have our own fire engineering podcast network. That is correct. And within that, you have, so we're bringing you on to that podcast platform.
You are.
We are.
See, that was the news. That was the exciting news. So let's talk more about that. The exciting news, because people were asking me, because I was doing little teasers.
As my boss says, don't screw it up.
So that was the teaser into it, that the C.A.N report is going to be part of the family and will be being on a Firefighter Nation's network.
Very much looking forward to that.
I'm excited for that.
Seeing the message that you can bring and the guests that you have on, and just watching you start conversations is going to be something that I am definitely looking forward to seeing and literally hearing.
So tell me more about it. Tell us about it. Where can they find it? Where am I going to share it? How can they get access? What other things can they find?
All your traditional platforms I personally use Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You can go on to the website itself and listen through there. We've got a lot of really talented popcorns. Can you tell it's snack time for me?
I love popcorn. Yeah. I love popcorn.
If my husband is watching downstairs, I hope there's popcorn ready when I
hope there's popcorn.
Come down there. Yeah, popcorn. Learning my Southern dialect here in Richmond. We've got John Velez, Preston Lyons. You've got Jim Bernica, who has just been an absolute trailblazer in both mental health and firefighter health. He and Nick, I butcher your last name every time. I have to have it in front of me to spell it out with my finger because it's like French Creole, but they do the Firefighter Health Conference up in Ohio. They're amazing. They podcast for us. It's just, we have Megan, the fire department funny woman herself, Megan Lautz, who is registered dietitian. We have some really great people in there in a lot of different sectors. Dan DeGrace and Chris do their podcast, Mental Health Monthly. I hope I've done a good job of trying to find people for every different little cultural piece of the pie. Ooh, I do have pie downstairs. Don't have popcorn, but I have pie. For every little cultural piece of the pie I just listen. Sometimes we don't have time to read, and to be able to throw that podcast in, whether it be January 1st, as we all start our fake diets, right? Hearing some practical advice from somebody like Megan on how to survive the busy firehouse where there's only junk food in the, especially tail end of holiday season, people are still going to be dropping junk off at the firehouse.
My God, yeah.
Or it be Preston and John talking about culture as just John and Preston, two different age ranges. Preston's our age, by the way. He just doesn't look it. Two different age ranges of the fire service and the unique perspectives they have. And then just somebody like Jim, who knows everybody. Jim and Nick happen to know everybody in the health world. And so they always find people working on the most cutting edge research. And then, we've got David Datchinger, who he's been around the mental health space for a while as well. And some of the guests he brings in, I always hear something that every now and then I get a little fatigued because I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm hearing the same things over and over.
Yeah.
Because the other thing I do is I scroll social media, right? Looking for fresh talent. And so unfortunately, when you do that along with reading and listening, you're like, I've heard the same thing 50 times today. And so I feel like our podcasters do such a good job of just going deep into the web of what their subject matter is that they want to talk about and finding fresh perspectives. So I am absolutely excited to have you on board doing the same.
I'm pumped. Love all the guests that you have on those shows and the hosts. Like you said, I love that it's actually diverse because, like you said, you can get really bored with the same mundane thing. And everyone's got their own little flavor. And I think that's what really keeps it going. And hopefully people want to stay engaged. And I'm excited to be a part of that. And like having John and Preston on, because I thought when you guys had them on, when you brought them into that, I was like, man, this is going in the right direction. I thought it was so cool. Like you got like a new generation, if you will, going into it. And that I could add my own little flair to it. And hopefully the people that wanting to hear about experiences, but also just Larry, like we talked about earlier, just personal experiences from all these other people. It doesn't have to be tactical and operational stuff, because again, there's a lot of that out there. But like you said before, getting those personal experiences, that is super educational, and learning from people that you normally wouldn't learn from, that you didn't even know existed. That's
Well,
something I think is so important.
you only spend part of your day running calls, but you spend every moment of that shift, unless you're completely passed out, with your shift mates and with people. And people sometimes equals problems. So just that's where culture and Firefighter Nation and podcasts like yours come in. Now I will be starting mine back up, so that does mean you have to compete with me. So may the odds be ever in your favor, but I think you'll be okay.
I'll do my best. I'm gonna have to get a
You're-
lot of sleep for those episodes, but I'm really, honestly, I'm very. When you asked me, I was extremely happy, humbled, and surprised and grateful. All of it. I'm very, very blessed, and I really appreciate you giving me a chance and seeing the hard work that we all of us put into these things. And that was my exciting news for everybody that was watching. Anybody who's watching, I got like a couple of viewers. So the exciting
See,
news is, huh?
I can't see
Can you
that on
see
my
it?
end, so I'm not even stressed out about anything. I'm
The
like that
exciting
random zoo
news.
animal that's picking all the stuff out of their hair and not paying attention to the kids on the window. That's me.
So the C.A.N report will be part of the Firefighter Nation. We'll be doing our podcast with them, joining a slew of fantastic hosts, and you'll be able to find the C.A.N report on there. Nothing changes. The name doesn't change. I asked Stephanie my first question. What was my first question, Stephanie?
Do I have to change the name?
No, it was, can I still swear?
Can you still swear? Good point. I can't officially say that on here. Just listen to my past episodes and that might answer your question.
Oh yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. It really means a lot. It's fantastic news. It's very, very exciting for the year 2026. The C.A.N report will be there. No name change. Nothing's changing. It's still Mike Goldstein. It's still me giving the same message, but now we get to actually just deliver it to a broader audience. So it's a really a great partnership, and I'm excited and grateful for you for inviting me to be a part of it.
That's what I'm here to do.
And let's see who else we got on here. The editors do a really good job. Don't worry, that's from John Velez. John Velez has been hanging out. He also said you can call Preston old. It really, it's okay. So we have that. So if anybody's got any questions, I don't see a whole lot streaming in, but that is fine. We have been over an hour here. Stephanie, quick question for you. For anybody who's watching, I had a great interview with a young woman from Georgia. Her name is Jasmine, and she gave some great advice about females in the fire service. And for anybody who's looking to get in the fire service on the female side, or struggling, honestly, as a female in that side of it, what are some tips or suggestions you could give?
I mean, that's such a broad potential subject matter. I would say the tips you could give are, and this really applies to everyone, but it's something that absolutely helped me with some of the issues I dealt with in the fire service. Find your mentors and allies. Something that helped me when I had guys being absolute D-bags, and there are some guys out there who shouldn't have jobs. Let's just put it that way. And what kept me in love with the fire service was finding some very wise people who I respected and others respected and trusted, and getting their perspective on this. Am I in the wrong in this? What could I do better to be a better shift mate, firefighter, whatever? And just finding those voices you can trust that can both guide you, but to look you in the face and say, here's where you're wrong, or no, you're not going crazy. This person is in the wrong. No matter how strong of a woman or otherwise firefighter you are, having people there to be a sounding board, you're surrounded by people all day long on a shift. And it's just, and it might not be somebody on your shift, but our people are our greatest tools and resources and lifeline. Find some good ones, because for the 1 to 2 bad people, you will find 3 to 6 good people, and that will remind you of what a beautiful thing the fire service is. We've spent this podcast talking about some of the issues that you and I kind of vaguely hinting at some of the issues you and I have both run into, and you and I both like to call out bad behavior. But something I want to focus more on in 2026, because I feel like we spent 2025 laying some truths on the line, is, hey guys, look at this fucking gorgeous thing we have called the fire service. Look at, we've talked about the sleep deprivation. We've talked about all these things that it takes away from our lives, because we need to have those conversations, right? Like, we need to be fixing the lack of sleep. We're killing ourselves early, and it's freaking stupid. Let's fix our schedules. Once I think you reach a certain level of awareness about the bad things, you have to go back and be like, hey, here are all the freaking cool things in the fire service, because as much as we talk about bad to make it change, we got to talk about good to grow it even further and faster. Long-winded answer. Go find you some good mentors. Go find you some good sounding boards.
I love it. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And just to piggyback on it, honestly, just find yourself a good culture. That's what I had to do. And I think, like you just said, like, fire service is beautiful. It's a big, beautiful picture right there. There's some bad stuff in there, and you have to leave. If, like, whether you can't find a good mentor and you can't find somebody very positive in your life and in the fire service and someone to have your back, like I've said many, many times, for anybody who's watching and listening, sometimes you can water that grass all you want. You're gonna have to go somewhere else. You can try to mow that grass, and you're just gonna get a big bald spot in there. Eventually, you're gonna have to go somewhere else and plant your seed and see if it grows, because that's what I did. And I don't care if you're female, male, you're a volunteer, you're a career, if you're in a crappy place and no one has your back and no one's willing to put the time in to educate you and help you grow, then you need to find a new home. And that's exactly what I did.
I don't have a mic. I have an earbud. I can drop that.
But with that being said, Stephanie, thank you so much for spending a good chunk of your evening with me. I know you had family over, and I really appreciate you doing this and spending the time and talking.
Thank you so much for having me on. Absolutely love to see the work you're doing. Welcome you on board, and, answer a couple questions.
Yeah. So 2026 is going to be amazing for everybody. Make sure you are checking out FDIC, Firefighter Nation, Fire Engineering. The 5 after midnight is going to be ramping up again. So be on the lookout for.
Allegedly.
I'm looking forward to it. And anybody have any questions, please, you can reach out to Stephanie. You have a work email, but I don't know if you want to give that out or not. If anyone want to email you stuff.
Yep. Nope. It is just stephanie.white@clarionevents.com. But Instagram's a good way to get a hold of me. Actually, fun fact, I really haven't checked my Instagram in like 2 weeks. I went on just Instagram fast recently. It was kind of nice. So I'll log back on tomorrow. But 5 after midnight on there. And I recently changed my handle on my personal Instagram account, and I can't remember it because I am no longer that paperwork firefighter now that I'm retired. So,
okay.
I mean, if you think about it, you can't send me to IA from my office.
It's true. It's very true. Okay. All right. Well, you heard it. So if you need to get a hold of her, there's her email address. And if you have something you want to submit to Firefighter Nation or Fire Engineering, visit the website, follow the instructions, please. And
follow the instructions.
And they'll help you out. That is very key, following the instructions. And
don't use AI.
And don't use AI. And honestly, from my experience, Stephanie is a straight shooter. Her staff will let you know if it seems good or if it needs some work or some meat behind it. So Stephanie, you've been fantastic to work with. For the articles I've submitted to you, I have one pending, and hopefully that we'll see it soon. Fingers crossed. But it's awesome though to work with you and bounce ideas off of you. And I think anybody who's ever dealt with you can agree with that. And I know my audience, people have been saying that as well, is that you're always a pleasure to work with and have great ideas. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and all the work that you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Mike.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's written in my fire department file anywhere. So just, say it again.
Well, it's recorded now. You can play that over and over again.
Thank you. So it's been fun being on here.
Yes, it's been a blast. I appreciate it. So I do have a little sign off, and I want you to say it with me. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I don't think I have.
Really? So there you go. So when we end it, I always like to say Nozzle Tov, and I want you to say it with me. Okay?
Is there a countdown? I mean,
there is a countdown.
Just go on, go? Okay.
So I say, be safe, stay well, and
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Nailed it. You all be safe, everybody. Take care. Thank you all for tuning in.
See you, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.